In the vast expanse of the galaxy, a message of desperation echoed across the stars. The galaxy was a peaceful place for many years, with hundreds of different species coexisting, but that peace was now threatened by a powerful alien coalition. This army of invaders was unstoppable, sweeping through planet after planet, destroying everything in their path. The once unified worlds of the galaxy were falling apart, and their defense forces were struggling to keep up. In one small corner of the galaxy, a group of desperate alien races huddled together in a remote space station. These species, though advanced in their own ways, were no match for the mighty coalition. One by one, their cities and fleets had been wiped out, leaving only a few survivors. The leaders of these races knew they had to try something, even if it was a long shot. "We must send a plea to the galaxy," said Zarn, the leader of the Jatharn, a species known for their intelligence and vast networks. He sat in the central room of the space station, surrounded by representatives from the other species. "But who will answer us?" asked Vera, a diplomat from the Zelnari, a race known for their speed and agility. "We have already tried to send messages to every corner of the galaxy, but no one is coming." Zarn shook his head. "We haven't tried everything yet. There is one species, one that has never been involved in the galactic wars. We know little about them, but they are known for their strange and unpredictable ways. Humans." The room fell, silent. The mention of humans was met with doubt and curiosity. The humans, a species from a distant planet called Earth, were mysterious and isolated. They had never joined the Galactic Council, and their technology was primitive compared to the advanced civilizations around them. Yet, there was something about them that made the leaders feel they might be their only hope. "How can we be sure they'll even respond?" asked Vera, skepticism in her voice. Zarn looked out the window, where the distant stars shimmered in the dark void of space. "We don't have a choice. We send the message, and we hope." With heavy hearts, they sent the message. It was a simple one, sent across all channels of communication. "We are under attack. Our worlds are dying. Please, answer our call." The plea was sent to every species they knew, but this time, it included a request to the humans, asking for their aid. Days passed and nothing came. The small space station, which had once been bustling with activity, began to feel like a tomb. The alien races waited anxiously, but their hope began to fade. Each day brought only more bad news. The coalition's ships were getting closer, and they knew they couldn't last much longer. Then, just when all seemed lost, a signal came through. "Incoming message," a technician shouted from the control room. "It's from the humans." The room erupted into a mix of disbelief and excitement. The humans had responded. Zarn, Vera, and the others rushed to the control room, eager to hear what the humans had to say. The message was brief, but it was clear. "We'll be there." The words were simple, but they carried a weight that none of the species had expected. The humans, unknown and unproven, were coming. The alien representatives looked at each other, unsure of what to feel. Could the humans really help? Or was this just a fool's hope? The next day, a ship appeared in the distance. It was small, far, smaller than the massive warships of the Coalition, or even the fleets of the allied species. Its design was strange, unlike anything the alien races had seen before. Its hull was rugged and practical, not built for elegance or show. The ship seemed like something from a bygone era, yet it was moving with purpose, cutting through the stars like a blade. As the ship approached, the space station's sensors began to detect something unexpected. The ship was not only faster than anticipated, but it was also cloaked with a shield that rendered it invisible to the enemy's radar. Bison. Technicians scrambled to identify the ship's origins. It was a human vessel, identified by the markings on its hull. The name was simple, yet it carried a sense of finality. "Hope. Hope," Zarn muttered to himself. It seemed fitting. This was their last chance, and it came from an unexpected source. The ship docked and a human figure emerged. He was tall with short-cropped hair and a stern expression. He was dressed in a uniform that was both functional and worn, a symbol of humanity's pragmatic approach to life. His eyes scanned the room as he walked in, and the silence was palpable. He looked at the leaders of the alien species, and without a word he spoke. "I'm Captain Ethan Reyes of the human fleet. We've answered your call. Tell us what needs to be done." Zarn stepped forward, his tone cautious yet hopeful. "We are facing a coalition of enemies that no one can defeat alone. We need your help, Captain. We need everything you have to stop them before they reach our last remaining worlds." Reyes nodded, his face unwavering. "We don't have much," he said, "but we'll fight. Humans don't back down when someone else needs them. We're not afraid to face impossible odds." Vieira was skeptical. "But you're just one ship. We've lost entire fleets. To the enemy, how can you possibly help?" "We don't just fight with ships or guns," Reyes replied, his voice calm yet full of conviction. "We fight with everything we've got, and we'll make sure you don't face this alone." As he spoke, the alien leaders began to feel something they hadn't felt in a long time: hope. This human, this stranger, was offering something none of them had dared to expect. Maybe, just maybe, humanity's arrival was the turning point they needed. But the question still lingered in the air. Could the humans really turn the tide against a coalition that had already crushed so many worlds? Would humanity's spirit be enough to save the galaxy from the edge of destruction? The answer would soon come, but for now they had a glimmer of hope, something they hadn't had in a long time. The human ship, Hope, had docked, and its arrival marked a new chapter in the fight for survival. Inside the small but sturdy vessel, Captain Ethan Reyes and his crew prepared for what was to come. They had no grand fleet or advanced technology like the others in the galaxy, but they carried with them something far more valuable: human determination. On the alien space station, the leaders of the various races gathered around the central command table, unsure of what to expect. Zarn, the leader of the Jatharn, paced nervously. He had seen countless battles and skirmishes, but nothing like this. They were placing their trust in the humans, a species they barely understood. "We can't afford to make any mistakes," Zarn said, his voice filled with worry. "If these humans fail, the whole galaxy could fall with them." Vieira, the Zelnari diplomat, studied the human ship on the monitor. "We don't know anything about their fighting strategies. They're a wild card in this war. But they're our only chance." The door to the meeting room opened, and Captain Reyes entered with his second-in-command, Lieutenant Maria Turner. Reyes's presence was commanding, yet calm. He exuded confidence that seemed to put everyone at ease, even though they had just met. His deep blue eyes scanned the room, his gaze shifting from one alien leader to another. "I know we're the underdogs here," Captain Reyes began, his voice steady. "But we came to help. No one should face this threat alone. You fought long enough. Now let us fight with you." Vera, still skeptical, crossed her arms. "Your ship is small, Captain. And your forces? We don't need an army, we just need a plan." Reyes interrupted. "Humans are resourceful. We've won wars that seemed impossible. And we're good at thinking on our feet. We'll find a way to turn the tide." Zarn studied the human captain's face. There was something about him, something that was more than just words. It was an energy that sparked hope in the hearts of those who had almost given up. The galaxy had seen many leaders, but none like this human. "What do you propose?" Zarn asked, his tone cautious but intrigued. Reyes stepped forward, pulling up a holographic map of the galaxy. The coalition's forces had already taken several planets, and their fleet was growing stronger with each passing day. The allied species had no choice but to unite their remaining forces, or they would be wiped out entirely. "The key to defeating them lies in disrupting their supply lines," Reyes said. "We know their fleets are big, but they can't win if they run out of resources. That's where we come in." He pointed to a system on the map, one far from the main battlefront, hidden in the far reaches of the galaxy. "This system holds a crucial resource. The coalition doesn't know we've found it yet. If we can destroy it before they discover it, we can starve their fleet. Without resources, they'll be vulnerable." There was a pause as the room absorbed this plan. The Jatharn leader looked uncertain. And how do you plan to do that? Your ship. It's a small one. You can't attack an entire fleet alone. We won't be alone, Reyes replied. We'll need your best pilots and strategists. Together we can strike fast, hit hard, and get out before they know what's happened. Time is on our side if we act now. The alien leaders exchanged glances, the skepticism still present but slowly giving way to curiosity. They had nothing to lose. Finally, Czar nodded. All right, Captain. We'll assist you. But this better work. Reyes smiled slightly. I don't intend to fail. Later that day, the human crew met with the alien forces to discuss the details of the mission. The ship's crew was small, but every person on board had a purpose. Lieutenant Turner, Reyes's second-in-command, was a sharp strategist with a deep understanding of human tactics. She would. The stars streaked by in a blur as the Hope raced through hyperspace, heading toward the enemy's vulnerable supply lines. Captain Ethan Reyes stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic display of the target area. The plan had been set into motion, and now they were about to face the unknown. There was no turning back. Lieutenant Maria Turner, his trusted second-in-command, approached him. She looked calm, but the tension in her eyes revealed the stakes of what was about to happen. We're almost there, Captain. How are the others? Holding up? Reyes gave her a brief nod. We're ready. The Allied forces are prepared, and our pilots are eager to show their worth. Let's just hope the enemy isn't ready for us. The mission was straightforward in theory. Destroy the supply depot, cripple the enemy's resources, and get out before they could retaliate. But as with all battles, things rarely went according to plan. As the Hope dropped out of hyperspace, the battlefield unfolded before them, a vast, desolate stretch of space. The target was a heavily fortified enemy depot located on the edge of a star system, surrounded by enemy ships and defensive weapons. The Allied forces, which now included human ships, formed up ready to strike. I'll be coordinating from here, Reyes said, his voice firm. Maria, you're leading the ground team. The rest of the crew will handle the space assault. Let's do this quickly and efficiently. Maria nodded and left to organize the team. Reyes felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but he pushed the worry aside. This was their moment. Humanity's moment. The first wave of Allied ships, including the human Hope, broke through the enemy's outer defenses with incredible precision. The humans, though outnumbered, fought with fierce determination. Their small, agile ship darted between enemy fire, dodging blasts with sharp, calculated maneuvers. The alien pilots, once doubtful of the humans' abilities, quickly saw that the Hope was far more than just a symbol of hope. It was a weapon in its own right. The battle raged on in the depths of space, but Reyes's focus never wavered. He coordinated the attack, his voice calm and steady over the comms. All units hit their outer defenses, strike now. Explosions filled the sky as the Allied ships unleashed a barrage of firepower. Enemy warships exploded in a spectacular display of light, their defenses crumbling under the combined assault. For a moment, it seemed as though victory was within their grasp. But then the enemy responded. A massive enemy flagship appeared out of nowhere, its dark hull looming ominously in the distance. It was larger than anything they had expected, and its weapon systems were far more advanced than the human fleet could handle. The alien forces launched a counterattack, and the battlefield turned chaotic. Energy blasts flew in all directions as ships collided and exploded. The human pilots were skilled, but they were outmatched. The situation grew dire quickly. Reyes, we need reinforcements, came a voice from the comms. It was one of the alien pilots, clearly struggling against the enemy's superior firepower. The Ally forces were being pushed back, and their ships were taking heavy damage. Reyes's eyes narrowed as he watched the unfolding disaster. This was the moment they had feared. The enemy's overwhelming strength was too much for the Allied forces. But then something inside him clicked. He had seen it before on Earth, how the underdog always fought harder when everything seemed lost. Stay calm, Reyes said, speaking to his crew. This isn't over. We've still got a chance. He quickly issued new orders. Lieutenant Turner, get your team to the surface. We can't afford to wait any longer. We need to disable their main defenses. Maria's voice crackled through the comms. We're on it, Captain. As she led the ground assault team, Reyes knew that the fate of the mission rested on their success. The Hope had to keep the enemy distracted long enough for them to strike the depot's core. It was a dangerous task, but the humans had come here to fight. They wouldn't let fear stop them now. On the surface of the enemy depot, Maria and her team descended in a dropship, landing just outside the heavily guarded entrance. They quickly disembarked, moving swiftly but quietly. The hostile environment was harsh. Alien weaponry lit up the night sky, and the sound of explosions rang out in the distance. But Maria's team had trained for this. Move out and stay close, Maria ordered, her voice sharp. She led the way through the dark steel corridors of the enemy depot, each step calculated and precise. The team navigated the complex with military precision, taking out enemy guards as they went. They reached the central control room, where the heart of the enemy's supply systems lay. Inside, they found an array of powerful computers and machinery, all vital to the enemy's war effort. Maria keyed in the code she had memorized. We're in, she said, her fingers flying across the console, initiating shutdown sequence. But just as they thought they had succeeded, an alarm blared throughout the facility. The enemy had detected their presence. The doors to the control room slammed shut and a squad of alien soldiers burst in, guns raised. Maria's heart raced as she grabbed her weapon. Get to the exit! Now! The team fought fiercely, but they were outnumbered. Maria's mind raced. They couldn't afford to get trapped here. They had one last chance to complete the mission. Captain, we need cover fire, Maria shouted into her comms. Reyes's voice came through, calm and focused. You've got it. Hold tight. Back in space, the Hope turned back to the enemy flagship, unleashing a barrage of firepower. The ship dodged incoming fire with expert precision, using every ounce of human skill to draw the enemy's attention away from the depot. On the ground, Maria and her team fought their way through the chaos, finally making it to the exit just as the main energy core of the depot began to overload. They ran, knowing they had mere moments to escape. The Hope continued to provide cover, just as planned. The battle in space was still intense, but it seemed the tide was turning. The human crew had managed to do what no one had expected, fight back with heart, with courage, and with precision. Maria and her team barely made it to their dropship before the entire depot exploded in a massive fireball, sending shockwaves across the surface. As they ascended into the sky, the flames of their victory lit up the darkness. The enemy supply lines were broken. The mission had been a success. Back on the Hope, Reyes exhaled deeply, the tension finally easing from his shoulders. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, they had won. Humanity had proven that it wasn't just the size of the fleet that mattered. It was the will to fight, the determination to never give up. We did it, Reyes muttered, as the battle-worn crew of the Hope looked out into the vast expanse of space. For the first time, they could see a glimmer of light in the dark. The victory at the enemy supply depot had been a much-needed boost, but the war was far from over. The explosion that had destroyed the depot sent shockwaves through the galaxy, but it had also drawn the attention of the Coalition's higher-ups. They were not pleased with the loss. Captain Ethan Reyes and the crew of the Hope knew that the hardest part was yet to come. Back at the Allied space station, the mood was a mix of cautious optimism and growing uncertainty. Zarn, the leader of the Jatharn, paced in the command center, deep in thought. The humans had done the impossible, attacking an enemy supply line and surviving. But Zarn knew that the Coalition would strike back with even more force. They had only scratched the surface. We may have won a battle, Zarn said, his voice low. But they're going to retaliate. We need to know more about them, about their plans. Fiera, the Xelnari diplomat, stood by the table, studying the holographic map of the galaxy. We need to understand what we're really up against. If we don't, we'll only be reacting to their moves. Reyes stepped forward, his face set in determination. We've broken their supply chain, but we haven't broken their will. We need to know what's coming next. and we need to find their weaknesses. The more we know, the better we can strike. Maria Turner, Reyes's second-in-command, was already scanning data on a nearby console. I've been reviewing their transmissions. There's something strange going on. The Coalition's communications have been more encrypted than before. They're hiding something. Zarn looked at her, his eyes narrowing. What do you mean? There's a pattern, Maria continued. They're planning something big, but they're keeping it hidden. If we can crack their code, we might find out exactly what they're planning. Reyes nodded. We need to get inside their systems. We need someone who can break their encryption. The room fell silent for a moment, and then Vera spoke up. We may have a solution. The Zelnari have one of the best hackers in the galaxy. If anyone can crack their encryption, it's him. Bring him here, Reyes said. We don't have time to waste. A few hours later, a small, wiry alien entered the command center. His appearance was distinctly Zelnari, slender with sharp, angular features and silver-blue skin that shimmered in the light. His name was Zeke, and he had earned a reputation for being able to break through the most secure systems in the galaxy. Zeke, we need your help, Reyes said. We've intercepted encrypted communications from the Coalition. We need you to crack them and find out what they're planning. Zeke's eyes glowed faintly as he took a seat at the console. I've heard of this Coalition, he said, his voice smooth and confident. But I've never seen encryption like theirs. It'll take some time, but I'll do my best. The Hope cut through the void of space, its engines humming as it made its way toward the remote sector where the Coalition was believed to be hiding its secret base. The mission was set, and the pressure weighed heavily on Captain Ethan Reyes and his crew. The discovery of the Coalition's plan to invade the galaxy had shifted the course of the war. They were now racing against time, and failure was not an option. Reyes stood on the bridge, his eyes scanning the stars, his thoughts running through the mission's potential outcomes. There was no turning back now. They had to succeed. The fate of the galaxy rested on their ability to locate the Coalition's base and strike before the enemy could launch their invasion. Captain, Maria Turner, his second-in-command, said, her voice sharp. We're entering the sector now. No sign of the enemy yet, but we'll need to stay alert. Reyes nodded. Keep your eyes open. The enemy's fleet could be nearby, and we don't know what kind of defenses they have in place. Let's get in, find the base, and get out. As the Hope drifted deeper into the sector, the quiet of space felt unnervingly heavy. The mission was a gamble, a dangerous one. There were too many unknowns, and every moment that passed without encountering the enemy felt like a countdown. They were in the enemy's backyard now, and the clock was ticking. On the surface, the human crew showed no signs of fear, but inside, every person aboard felt the weight of the responsibility they carried. The Allied forces were counting on them. The galaxy itself was counting on them. Zarn, the leader of the Getharn, stood beside Reyes on the bridge. We need to act fast. The longer we stay here, the more likely it is that the Coalition will find us. I know, Reyes said, his eyes narrowing. But rushing in blindly won't help us. We need to find the base, and we need to do it without alerting the enemy. Maria leaned over to Reyes, her expression tense. We've picked up a faint energy. Signature ahead. It's not much, but it might be our target. Reyes gave a quick nod. Prepare the team. We're going in. Moments later, the Hope dropped out of hyperspace, and the crew was met with the sight of a massive, seemingly empty asteroid field. The field stretched out in all directions, broken up only by scattered chunks of rock and ice. It seemed like a perfect place for a hidden base, but the silence of the field was eerie. It was as if the galaxy itself held its breath. Keep your shields up, Reyes ordered. We don't know what's waiting for us here. The crew worked quickly, scanning for any signs of enemy activity. Maria was at the helm, her focus sharp as she navigated the field. Reyes stood next to her, monitoring the sensors. The seconds felt like hours as they searched for something, anything, that would lead them to the hidden base. Suddenly, the sensors pinged. Got something. Maria's voice cut through the tension. There's a hidden structure beneath one of the larger asteroids. It's shielded, but I'm getting a faint energy signature. That's our target. Reyes leaned in, studying the screen. We've found it. Let's move in carefully. We don't know what kind of defenses they have. This could be a trap. The Hope carefully approached the asteroid, and as they drew closer, a massive hidden door slowly slid open, revealing a dark, fortified entrance. The ship's engines hummed, and the crew worked together with practiced efficiency. They had a job to do, and nothing would stop them. As the ship landed inside the asteroid's hollow core, Reyes felt a lump form in his throat. This was it. The enemy base was just ahead. The clock was ticking, and they needed to act quickly. "Everyone suit up," Reyes commanded. "We're going in." The ground team, consisting of Reyes, Maria, and a handful of human and alien soldiers, disembarked from the Hope and moved toward the entrance. The base was dark, its walls lined with strange alien machinery. It was clear that the coalition had been operating here for some time, building up their forces in secret. "Stay close and stay quiet," Reyes ordered, as the team advanced through the dimly lit corridors. The air was thick with tension, every footstep echoing in the silence. They had to be careful. One wrong move could set off alarms, and they couldn't afford to be caught off guard. As they moved deeper into the base, they encountered a series of locked doors and security systems. But the team was prepared. Maria and Zik, the Zelnari hacker, worked together to bypass the locks and disable the security measures. Slowly but surely, they advanced toward the heart of the base. Finally, they reached a large central chamber, and inside they found what they were looking for: a series of large data terminals and communication systems that could provide the intel they needed to destroy the coalition's invasion plans. "Zik, get to work," Reyes said. "We need to find the details of their invasion. We have to stop them before they mobilize." Zik set to work, hacking into the systems. "It'll take a few minutes," he muttered, his fingers flying over the keyboard. As the team waited, the tension in the room continued to build. Reyes glanced around, his eyes scanning the dark corners of the room. They were so close. The data they needed was within their reach, but just as Zik finished hacking into the system, the alarms blared. "They know we're here," Maria said, her voice tight. "We need to get out now." The doors to the chamber slammed shut, and enemy soldiers flooded the room. A firefight erupted, with laser blasts flying through the air. Reyes and his team fought with everything they had, but the numbers were against them. The enemy soldiers were well-trained and heavily armed, and soon, the team found themselves cornered. Maria's voice came over the comms. "Captain, we can't hold them off much longer. We need to retreat." Reyes looked at Zik, who was still clutching the data. "How much did you get?" Zik glanced up, his face pale. "Enough to destroy their invasion plans, but it'll take time to transmit it to the fleet." "Then let's make sure it gets there," Reyes said. "Get to the ship. We're leaving." With the data secured, the team fought their way back to the Hope, pushing through the chaos. They managed to board the ship just as the enemy closed in. The Hope shot off from the surface, narrowly avoiding enemy fire as they ascended into space. But as the ship raced away from the asteroid base, Reyes knew something had changed. The cost of this mission had been high, and they had lost more than just time. Their victory came at a price, and now they had to deal with the consequences. The Hope jumped to hyperspace, leaving the enemy base behind. Reyes stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. The data was in their hands, but the fight was far from over. They had made a sacrifice, and the road ahead would be even harder. But humanity had proven they were ready to face it. "We've got what we need," Reyes said, his voice steady. "Now, we finish this." The stars stretched out before the Hope, a vast sea of light and darkness. Captain Ethan Reyes stood on the bridge, watching the endless expanse. His mind was heavy with thoughts of the battle ahead. They had the data. Now the information needed to stop the coalition's invasion. But the war was far from over. They had only one chance to strike back and ensure the galaxy's survival. "We've got one shot at this," Reyes said, his voice firm. "We hit them, hard and fast. We can't let them regroup." Maria Turner, his second in command, looked at him, her face set in determination. We know what we're up against, but we're ready. We've got the best pilots, the best intel. We can do this." Reyes turned to the crew, his heart swelling with pride. They were more than just a crew now. They were a team. Together they had done what no one else thought possible. They had broken the coalition's supply lines, infiltrated their base, and gathered the intelligence needed to stop the invasion. But now, they faced the final battle. "We've done the impossible before," Reyes continued. "Now, we finish it." The data they had stolen from the enemy base revealed the location of the coalition's primary fleet, a massive armada waiting to invade the galaxy. It was stationed at a remote location on the edge of known space, preparing to strike. If they could destroy it, they would cripple the coalition's plans for good. The Allied forces, now united under human leadership, moved quickly. Ships from all corners of the galaxy gathered, each species putting aside old differences to join the fight. They would go to battle together or they would lose everything. As the Hope and the Allied fleet approached the coalition's armada, the tension in the air was palpable. This would be the final confrontation, the last chance to stop the invasion and save the galaxy. Reyes stood at the helm, his gaze focused on the approaching enemy fleet. The coalition ships were enormous, their weapons designed to crush entire fleets in a single blow. But the human ship, though small in comparison, was fast and agile. It would take every ounce of skill and strategy to succeed. "We'll strike from the rear," Reyes said, his voice calm and steady. "We'll hit their supply ships first. We need to break their logistics before we take on the big ships." The battle began with a burst of energy as the Allied fleet moved in. The Hope darted into action, its small size allowing it to weave between enemy ships and avoid their deadly fire. The crew of the Hope worked in perfect harmony, dodging incoming blasts and retaliating with pinpoint accuracy. The ship's weapons blazed with fire, taking down enemy ships one by one. Maria led the ground team, coordinating the attack from the surface of a nearby moon. Their mission was to infiltrate the enemy's defensive perimeter and sabotage their weapons systems. With the help of the alien,